Did you know that for over 800 years, the Iberian Peninsula was ruled by Muslims? I've been to Spain many times, and it's one of my favorite places in the world. I love the food, the culture, the history, but most of all, I love the people. The Spanish are some of the most warm and welcoming people I've ever met. But what many people don't realize is that before the Spanish were Christian, they were Muslim. And today we're going to talk about the Muslim conquest of Spain. How Muslims ruled over the Iberian Peninsula for 800 years, and why they called this place Al-Andalus, the land of peace. In 711 CE, Muslim general named Tariq ibn Zayd landed in the Iberian Peninsula with 40,000 soldiers. The Visigoth king at the time had left the defense of his southernmost territory to a woman named Roderick, who was known for her beauty. But while she may have been beautiful, she was very smart, because when Tariq offered her a chance to convert to Islam or face the wrath of his army, she chose to reject him. So Tariq did something that would become a common trope in Islamic history. He led his army into battle wearing a white robe, giving him the moniker Tariq el-Puti, or Tariq the White. His army was victorious, and Roderick fled to Toledo. Soon after, Tariq took control of the entire peninsula, with the exception of the northernmost part, which was ruled by the Kingdom of Asturias. The Muslim conquest of Spain was significant for two reasons. 1. It marked the beginning of the Islamic Golden Age in the Iberian Peninsula, which lasted for several centuries. And 2. It gave Muslims access to the sea. This was important because, up until this point, Muslim expansion into Europe had been stopped by the mountains. But now that Muslims controlled the coast, they had access to the Atlantic Ocean. As Muslims began migrating into Spain, they quickly made Córdoba their center of learning and culture. In fact, during the 10th century, Córdoba was considered one of the most important intellectual centers in the world. At the time, there were more than 200,000 Muslims living in Córdoba, making it one of the largest Muslim cities outside of the Middle East. But you might be wondering, if Córdoba was such a great city, why don't we see it today? Well, that's because the city was sacked by Christian forces in 1236 and completely destroyed. What you see today is a shadow of its former self. Córdoba also gave rise to some of the most famous architecture in history. One example is the Alhambra, which was originally built as a palace for the Nasrid dynasty. It then became an important seat of government, and today it's a popular tourist destination. Another example is the Great Mosque of Córdoba, which was built in 784. It's the oldest mosque in Europe, and once it was completed, it was the third largest in the world. Because of its unique architecture, it's considered one of the most beautiful mosques in the world. During the Muslim Golden Age in Spain, Muslims, Christians, and Jews lived together in relative peace. In fact, there was so much cultural exchange during this time period that many people refer to it as the Andalusian dream. And this dream continued well into the 13th century. It wasn't until the Christian kingdoms began encroaching on Muslim territory that things started to get ugly. Muslims in Spain made significant contributions to art, science, and philosophy. In fact, many of the scientific instruments we use today can be traced back to Muslim inventions. For example, the astrolabe, which is a device used to measure the positions of stars and planets, was invented by the Muslims in the 9th century. They also made significant advancements in mathematics, optics, and chemistry. But perhaps the greatest contribution of the Muslims to Spain was their influence on language. The Spanish language is a mixture of Latin, Arabic, and Berber. In fact, most of the words for food, clothing, and everyday items are derived from Arabic. Some examples include the word for orange, which comes from the Arabic word for sour, and the word for alcohol, which comes from the Arabic word for sparkling. Unfortunately, the dream of Convivencia, or peaceful coexistence, ended in 1492, when the Muslim king of Granada surrendered his kingdom to the Spanish monarchs, Ferdinand and Isabella. This marked the end of Muslim rule in Spain and the beginning of the Inquisition. Today, there are still some remnants of the Muslim presence in Spain. For example, there are still some Muslim-owned businesses and organizations in Córdoba, and the Spanish city of Malaga has a large mosque that was built during the Muslim Golden Age. If you'd like to learn more about Muslim history, stay tuned for more information. Thank you.